a moment to tell you a little bit about matching some beers with food. Of course, there are many styles of beers out there, and there's a style for every food. But the truth of the matter is that with certain foods, it's a lot easier to match a beer to them than it is to match wine.
Okay.
And the foods I'm going to be talking about specifically today is foods that have a really strong flavor. Because I don't know if it's ever happened to you that you buy a wine to have with a food that's maybe very spicy or very strong, and somehow after you've had a bite of your food, it distorts the flavor of the wine. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it gets maybe tinny or bitter. Sometimes the wine can seem a little hot. And beers are immediately at a great advantage because they have the carbonation. So what the carbonation does is it acts essentially as a palate cleanser, just sweeps away all of those strong flavors, and each bite is new. You don't get that cumulative effect. You know what I'm saying? And so I've divided these beers into two categories, and actually I should hide this one back here for now. And these ones here are beers that I would recommend with spicy food. And when I'm talking about spicy food, we're talking
like a curry or something, or
exactly Indian food, Mexican food. And so these are two different beers. This is a steam whistle pilsner, but the important thing to note is that it's a pilsner beer.
Okay.
There are many pilsners out there, and the great thing about beers is that they will always have the style of beer listed on the bottle. This one here is an American pale ale. There are many pale ales out there. There are also India pale ales.
Yeah.
And what these two beers have in common is they have a lot of hops in them.
Okay.
So the hops basically stands up against the spice.
Okay.
Whereas a wine will tend to be a little bit more mellow and will get sometimes bowled over by the spice. The hops just gives it that solid character. And in terms of when you're picking between lager and the ale, a great sort of cheat tool is to use the lagers where you would generally think of using a white wine, and to use the ale where you would think of using a red wine.
So for example, meat and fish, you'll look to use kind of lager. For ales, more kind of, meat and kind of red meat and
Definitely. It gets a little bit more involved than that because, these dishes often have a lot of sauces to them and so on and so forth. So it could be a chicken dish and still be very heavy, in which case you would want this beer.
Okay.
And just on a side note, this beer here, this pale ale, is the Anchor Brewing Company Liberty Ale, and this has an American hops in it. And the American hops has a citrus quality to it. So the minute you get into anything that's Mexican or Thai and it's got lemon in it or lime, this is going to be just spectacular.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's our first category. And this second category here I've reserved for what I call pungent foods. When I'm talking about pungent, I'm talking about salad dressing, pesto with a lot of garlic, smoked food, something like that that's just going to have a lot of flavor to it.
Yeah.
And these are all Belgian beers. And what Belgian beers have in common is a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
Not only do Belgians like to toss in a lot of things in their beer, like for example in this Vit beer, which is actually out of Quebec, but it's still a Belgian style. This has coriander and orange added to it. In addition, they all have yeasts that just give a lot of crazy flavors to them. And once again, you want to be careful with the weight.
Okay.
So for example, if you're eating something like a sauerkraut or a salad, obviously you don't want to go with one of these beers. This beer here is the Chimay. It's 7%. That's really strong. If you're looking for a salad, you want to get a lighter beer like the Vit. If you're going for something like a sauerkraut, I would definitely go for this one here. This is a Belgian blonde, and it actually has a lot of honey character to it. So you know how sauerkraut is kind of sweet and sour at the same time? This will blend in really nicely. Plus, if you're having sausage,
perfect.
You know the sweetness of the pork, the sweetness of the honey, you're laughing. Then when you're moving into foods that are smoked, you definitely want to go with a full flavored Belgian beer. And there are many out there. This is just one example of the Chimay.
Yeah.
And on a side note, while we're talking about smoky foods, I just wanted to pull out this beer here. And this is Echt Schlenkerla Rauchbier. This is a beer out of Germany.
Okay.
And it's actually a smoke beer.
Wow. We need to try some?
Absolutely. So this beer is, what happens basically is they smoke the malts over beechwood.
Okay.
And I'm going to pour this out for you. You're not going to believe it. It tastes like there's bacon in it. So brace yourself. This is a very unusual flavor. I'm just going to pour a little bit out for you. Yeah, just smell that.
Wow, it's a very unusual smell, very kind of potent smell.
Mm-hmm.
It's good, it's nice.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Now imagine that with a BLT.
No, you can definitely taste the kind of bacon. Come some more.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that.